Okay, Randy's starting to clean up some of the parts to our starter body here. This was the end piece there. What we're doing with those is we're just putting them in the bead blaster and cleaning them up. It's not absolutely necessary, but I like to do it just because it makes a little more professional look when you get done. If you do use an abrasive blaster to clean it out, be sure you get all the bushings and the threads where the screws go. Make sure you get all that debris out of there so you don't mess that up. Okay. Now this is the nose piece, and was just fixing to bead blast that, but I wanted to disassemble it first because it's got several things in there. There's a seal, and then there's a bearing, and out on the nose here there's an O-ring, so you want to take all that off. Now this bearing and seal here, the seal actually seals the nose of the starter from the engine itself, because this side of the starter is actually in the engine oil, and this is also can cause a situation I've seen several times before where that seal would actually fail and it would literally put oil inside the starter itself and damage the brushes and the commutator. And all I did is I just took a punch and just went in from the inside of the nose and drove the bearing, and then did the same thing with the seal, which the seal, you're going to destroy it getting it out, but the rebuild kit we're going to be using is going to have a new one of these, so we'll just discard that. And as far as the bearing, just check it over, make sure it's good and free, because we'll probably end up reusing that one. But yeah, we'll clean this up, get the grease out of it, and then we'll go ahead and bead blast this too. Randy's got all of our starter housing parts all cleaned up and bead blasted. Everything looks real good there. What we did with the magnet housing, this is actually steel, so once we ran it through the bead blaster, we decided we needed to paint it so it wouldn't rust, so we just masked off the ends of it, shot it with some satin silver, made it look real good. Yeah. Alright, next we're going to work on the armature. There's a couple things we're going to do here. We want to clean this commutator up real good and clean up all the segments and everything, and I'll show you how to do that here in a couple of minutes. And I'm also going to show you how to test the armature to make sure that it's good. So what Randy's going to do here, he's going to take that armature, and if you'll kind of hold that up here a little closer so you can get a good look at the armature there. See those little striped pieces on that armature, those are called segments, and that's what the brushes run against, and it energizes sections of the armature that makes it react with the magnets. That's what makes the starter spin. As the brushes wear, those little gaps between those segments in that commutator builds up in there, and what can happen is when the brush is supposed to be touching one segment, it can actually be spreading that voltage over several segments, and it'll cause your starter to not be very efficient. It may kind of cause it to drag. So what Randy's going to do there is he's got a little flat blade screwdriver, and he's just putting that in those grooves. He's just going to scrape that through there, and what that does is that takes any of that excess brush material out between those segments of that commutator. And he's going to do every one of those. And once he gets done with that, then we'll move over to the drill press, and I'll show you how we're going to polish that commutator up again. Alright, we're getting ready to polish up our commutator. And what I've done is I've took the armature here, and Randy's chucked it up in the drill press. And as you can see, that armature, it's got a little bit of burning on it, but not bad. It just needs to be dressed up a little bit. And what we're going to use to dress that thing up with is we're going to take a piece of 80 grit emery cloth. And while that armature is spinning in that press, Randy's going to kind of polish it up with that. Now that band of emery cloth is a little bit too wide for that armature. So what he's going to do is he's going to narrow that up a little bit and just rip a little off. There you go. All right, now it's wide enough that you can just kind of loop it around on there and polish it up. So he's going to fire that sucker up and start polishing that armature. Now what he's going to do is he's going to make a few passes and then take a look at it. You can see it's starting to polish up, but you can still see a little bit of mark there in the center where the brushes run. So he's going to keep polishing on it there. Yeah, a little bit more. That's looking pretty good right there. Tell you what, just shut it off for a second. Let's see what it looks like. Oh yeah, it looks real good. All right, so now we need to kind of put a finish on it, kind of slick it up. So what we're going to use next is he's going to take a piece of Scotch-Brite material. That's just purple Scotch-Brite. And we'll polish it up with that, and that'll put the final finish on that and make it real good and slick. All right. Yeah, now, yeah, that's good and slick right there. All right, now we'll take that thing out of the drill press, and I'm gonna show you how to test that armature to make sure that all the contacts and all the segments in the armature are good. Now we're gonna test the armature, and what we've done, we've got the old fluke meter set up over here, and we just got it set up to where when you touch the contacts together, it just beeps. It's kind of like a diode tester. Now, what Randy's gonna do is there's two ways you have to test that armature. Each segment on the commutator should all have continuity to each other. So what he's going to do is he's going to take those two leads and he's going to touch them 180 degrees apart on the commutator, and it should beep. And now he's going to work his way around, and he should have continuity on all the segments across from each other. Yeah, see, that works perfect. Now the second test is to make sure that none of the segments have continuity to ground. So he's going to ground one lead of his tester, then take the other lead and go around to all segments on the commutator and make sure none of those are shorted to ground. All right, that looks like a good commutator there. All right, and that's how you test it. So now we're going to go on and start putting this thing back together. Okay, we've got everything all cleaned up and we're ready to start rebuilding this starter. Now this is a kit that I'm going to be using. It's sold through a company called McDonald ATV, and Armature is their name brand of their products they sell. Now this starter kit here, it's part number SM704R. You can get this from any motorcycle or ATV repair shop that handles McDonald ATV products. They don't do customer direct. You have to go through a dealer to get it. Like I said, you can get this through just about any motorcycle or ATV repair shop. If you have trouble finding one, give me a shout. I can tell you how to get hooked up with one. Okay, and what I like about this kit is it has everything that you need to rebuild this starter. Of course, mainly this is the main thing we're needing. That's the brush plate. Now you can see when I compare this to the old one, you can see the difference in the lengths of the brushes. So that's the lengths of them brushes there, and there's your original ones. You can see how they're all worn out there. That's why that thing don't want to work right. Okay, but what this also has in this kit, you've got all the bushings and all the seals, everything you need. It's got, some of these bushings are not needed. These kits work on several different models of starters, so some of this you won't use. This is the bushing that goes in the tail shaft end of it. The one in our cover is in perfectly good shape, so I'm not going to take the time to dig that thing out and put this new one in. But it also has the O-ring that goes on the nose piece. There's the seal, and then it's got the little seals that goes on the screws that holds the case together. And it also has the O-rings that go around the perimeter of the magnets. Okay, so I guess first thing we're going to do is I'm going to take this cover here, this nose piece, and we're going to go over to the press. I'm going to press the new seal. Don't use that old seal. I'm going to press the new seal in there, and then I've also taken our bearing. The bearing is sealed on one side and it's unsealed on the other. So I went ahead and repack that full of grease, because that's all the lubrication that bearing is going to see. So we'll go to the press, we'll press in the seal, and when you put that seal in there, it does have a way it has to go. Since you do have oil on the front side of it, you want the seal facing with the smooth side out like that. So that's going to hold the oil in the engine and keep it from getting in there into your starter armature.